Why are so many people suddenly rethinking their operating systems? Because the trade-offs have changed. In the past, switching felt risky. Compatibility was limited. Performance was uncertain. Most people stayed put because the alternatives simply were not ready. That is no longer the case. In the year 2025, Linux crossed 5% of the United States desktop market for the first time. Just 5 years earlier, it sat near 1.5%. That kind of growth only happens when everyday users start seeing real value. At the same time, Windows 11 began losing ground among its own users. Its share slipped from 53.51% in July to 49.08% by August, right as Windows 10 reached end of life on October 14. For many users, the timing mattered. Upgrading was no longer a choice. Hardware requirements blocked millions of perfectly capable machines. Ads appeared in places they never existed before. Telemetry increased. AI features arrived without being asked for, so people started looking elsewhere. Gaming surveys confirmed the shift. Linux use on Steam climbed to 3.58% in December 2025, the highest level ever recorded. Reports showed hundreds of thousands moving to modern Linux distributions like Zorin OS, not as an experiment, but as a daily operating system. This is not about ideology. It is about control, performance, and longevity. And once people realize those trade-offs exist, the question stops being whether switching is possible. Independent analysts and tech sites like ZDNet and StatCounter have tracked a different story. Linux desktop share climbed past 4% globally by 2024 and hit over 5% in the US by June 2025, coinciding with Windows 11's stalled adoption. Researchers point to concrete user tests. Linux Mint uses half the RAM of Windows 11 at idle, reviving old PCs that fail. Windows 11's TPM checks up to 25% of business Windows 10 machines. Privacy experts highlight Windows telemetry as a key driver. Unlike Linux optional, transparent logging, Windows sends detailed diagnostics by default, including app usage and error data, which users can't fully disable without tweaks. A UK-Which survey in September 2025 found 6% of Windows 10 users plan to switch to Linux post-EOL, citing dissatisfaction with forced changes like the centered start menu and Copilot bloat. Tests by YouTubers and sites like Beta News show Windows bloating with ads in the start menu and pre-installed apps, while Linux runs clean and ad-free. You probably think Linux is only for coders, but distros like Ubuntu and Mint now mimic Windows interfaces, with 93% of Linux users recommending it for ease. Malware risks amplify the gap. Windows faces billions in cyber losses yearly, while Linux open-source scrutiny keeps exploits rare. Data from Zorin OS reports 780,000 downloads from ex-Windows users in 2025, proving the shift is real and accelerating. Governments and advocates have taken note of Windows practices amid the migration. In Europe, data protection authorities scrutinize telemetry under GDPR principles like data minimization and consent, as constant diagnostics can capture sensitive metadata without a clear opt-out. Privacy groups like the Electronic Frontier Foundation praise Linux for avoiding proprietary tracking, urging users toward open source amid Windows 11's AI privacy probes, like those from UK regulators on Copilot+. No major fines or lawsuits dominate headlines, but institutional warnings abound. Universities and federal data show Linux at 5.6% in the US, with agencies hesitant on Windows due to US data center transfers. The FTC echoes concerns on transparency, tying back to why regulators flag OS data grabs. They risk exposing browsing habits, locations, and file data that Linux handles locally by design. This regulatory lens sharpens into focus, revealing why everyday users across professions and backgrounds are decisively voting with their hardware, choosing systems that respect their autonomy over corporate-dictated terms. The shift transcends statistics, becoming a tangible movement as individuals reclaim control from operating systems that increasingly serve ecosystems rather than people. Real-world implications hit closest to home through everyday scenarios that expose Windows limitations, while highlighting Linux advantages in practical human terms. Consider a freelance graphic designer juggling deadlines on an older PC bought just a few years ago. Windows 11 outright rejects it due to missing Trusted Platform module, forcing a $1,000 hardware upgrade or recurring paid security patches just to stay minimally protected. Linux Mint, by contrast, installs instantly in minutes, runs Adobe alternatives like GIMP with fluid precision, and consumes only 4 GB of RAM at baseline compared to Windows 8 GB idle draw. Their client files project mockups, and confidential briefs remain entirely private with no telemetry phoning home to distant servers logging every click and file access. This designer works uninterrupted on hardware that would otherwise sit obsolete, breathing new life into their workflow without invasive oversight. For example, Imagine a small business owner meticulously tracking finances, invoices, and payroll in Excel sheets built over the years. Windows ads clutter the start menu, updates frequently break legacy software compatibility, and telemetry silently logs keystrokes, financial figures, and error patterns in diagnostics, potentially exposing sensitive numbers. Switching to Linux-powered LibreOffice keeps every spreadsheet calculation and record strictly local, offline, and blazingly efficient on decade-old hardware that Windows deems unworthy. They save thousands in forced upgrades, avoid distraction, and maintain ironclad control over business data that fuels their livelihood, with no cloud intermediaries, no unexpected costs. Or take a journalist compiling investigative notes on sensitive geopolitical topics, sources, and timelines critical to their next breaking story. Windows Copilot relentlessly scans documents for insights, potentially cloud uploading snippets to Microsoft servers for AI processing before full encryption kicks in. Linux editors like Joplin encrypt everything natively on the device with user-defined keys and zero AI snooping, ensuring notes on whistleblowers' locations and strategies stay sealed from external eyes. These scenarios draw directly from documented real risks, financial leaks, and professional confidentiality breaches seen repeatedly in Windows incident reports, from ransomware hits to diagnostic data exposure, but Linux sidesteps them entirely through fundamental user control and minimal data vectors. Health professionals face parallel high stakes where precision and privacy intersect daily. Patient notes, treatment plans, and diagnostic histories captured in unencrypted telemetry could violate HIPAA-like rules if leaked through routine diagnostics or breaches, whereas Linux deliberate minimalism eliminates that vector from the outset. No background logging, no mandatory uploads, just tools that handle medical data with the discretion it demands, allowing focus on care rather than compliance nightmares. These examples, grounded in verified patterns of OS behavior, illustrate why the migration accelerates across demographics from creators to entrepreneurs. Microsoft acknowledges Linux rise, but only indirectly, with executives noting heterogeneous support commitments dating back to 2015, framing it as ecosystem diversity rather than a direct competitive threat. No panicked public response or emergency measures mark desktop shifts despite clear market erosion. Post-Windows 10, end of life, they eased some Windows 11 hardware requirements slightly, bypassing certain TPM checks for broader compatibility, and extended free enterprise security updates for 1 year to corporate users, delaying the full paid subscription model rollout. Copilot toggles received usability improvement, allowing easier disabling of the AI sidebar, and ad controls expanded within settings for basic personalization tweaks. These steps signal responsiveness yet fall short of addressing core grievances. Yet rigorous independent tests reveal persistent, deeply rooted issues that undermine user trust. Telemetry endures even in required mode, quietly sending hardware specification, app crash details, and usage telemetry back to Microsoft servers with full disable demanding complex registry edit, group policy mastery, or third-party interventions. Windows 11 continues demanding disproportionate resources with higher CPU, RAM, and storage footprints compared to lean Linux counterparts. Proton compatibility layer on Linux outperforms native Windows for Steam games in numerous titles. Per Valve own hardware survey data proving gaming viability beyond doubt. Bloatware like Candy Crush. Saga pre-installs persist across fresh installs, cluttering storage, while start menu ads aggressively promote Microsoft Edge, e-locking users into the ecosystem. Striking comparison drives the disparity home. Linux secures your system through community-patched kernels deployed in days via distro updates, while Windows patches often lag weeks, leaving millions exposed during vulnerability windows like the 400 million unsupported PCs lingering post-end of life. Filters and opt-outs fail spectacularly too. Selecting opt-out of personalization still permits basic diagnostics to flow, akin to securing a vault with nothing more than a sticky note over the keyhole. These gaps perpetuate the cycle, pushing informed users toward alternatives that deliver without compromise. You can act right now with these precise, actionable steps tailored for immediate impact, whether staying on Windows or preparing a full transition. First, universal for all Windows users, navigate to settings greater than privacy and security greater than diagnostics and feedback, then set diagnostic data to required only the bare minimum and immediately delete all stored diagnostic data to purge existing logs. Next, under the General subsection, toggle off tailored experiences and diagnostic data viewer, ensuring no further personalized tracking builds your profile. Next, tackle ads directly. Go to settings greater than personalization greater than start, and toggle off show recommendations in start, eliminating promotional clutter. For deeper telemetry minimization, launch gpidit.msc, but note this requires Pro Edition or higher, then navigate computer configuration greater than administrative templates, greater than Windows components, greater than data collection and policy-based data collection, then set everything to disable, locking down outbound data flows comprehensively. Advanced optional but highly effective install O and O Shutup is a free lightweight tool that blocks trackers, telemetry, and forced updates with one-click interface, no technical expertise needed. If contemplating a full switch, download the Ubuntu or Linux Mint ISO file, create a bootable USB drive using Rufus on any PC, boot from it by hitting F12 or your BIOS key at startup, and test the live environment hands-on before committing to absolutely no data loss during trial. These tweaks slash data outflows immediately, while a complete Linux setup revives decade-old gear for free, unlocking performance and privacy in one move. The core truth cuts through the noise with razor-sharp clarity. Windows prioritizes Microsoft's sprawling ecosystem, revenue streams, endless subscription models, and relentless data harvesting over your full sovereign control over your own hardware, software, and digital footprint. This fundamental misalignment fuels a relentless user exodus toward Linux's uncompromised freedom, transparency, and user-first philosophy, where you dictate terms, not corporate boardrooms. Every forced update, every telemetry ping, every ad injection chips away at autonomy, pushing discerning users toward operating systems that respect their right to privacy, performance, and choice without compromise. The evidence stacks, undeniable, from market share erosion to surging distro downloads, proving this revolution moves beyond theory into daily reality for hundreds of thousands already. This shift represents more than technical preference. It signals a broader awakening where individuals reject surveillance capitalism embedded in proprietary systems, reclaiming computing as a tool for empowerment rather than exploitation. Linux delivers not just lighter resource usage, but genuine ownership, code you can audit, modify, and trust without hidden agendas. Windows locks you into cycles of obsolescence, dependency, and oversight, while Linux unlocks hardware potential, preserves your data sovereignty, and scales with your needs, not Microsoft's quarterly targets. The momentum builds exponentially as word spreads through communities, forums, and real-world tests, converting skeptics into advocates, one liberated PC at a time. Choose now with clarity and purpose, seizing control over your digital destiny today. Option 1, open settings immediately and disable telemetry exactly as outlined, step by step, reclaiming your data, privacy, and reducing corporate reach. Today, with changes that take minutes but yield lifelong protection, feel the immediate relief as notifications quiet, diagnostic pings cease, and your system runs cleaner, faster, serving you alone. Option 2, share this video widely with a Windows using friend or family member still at risk post-end of life, arming them with life-changing knowledge before their next upgrade decision strands them in the same trap. Your voice amplifies the movement, turning passive viewers into active participants in this computing renaissance. Comment below which one you pick right now, creating real accountability in your community and inspiring others to act. Watch the ripple effect as dozens follow your lead in comments, sparking conversations that accelerate awareness. Did you choose the settings tweak for instant privacy gains or the share option to protect loved ones? Your public commitment drives momentum, proving that everyday actions compound into cultural shifts. Next, we investigate Android's hidden tracking empire, peeling back layers of mobile surveillance that dwarf even Windows telemetry in scope and sophistication. Expect revelations on app permissions, location pings, and cloud syncs that redefine your phone as a personal data mine. Subscribe now for that bombshell investigation and more unflinching tech truths delivered straight, unfiltered, and evidence-based. Your computing future starts with knowing the shift is here, unfolding rapidly across desktops, laptops, and beyond. Forward-thinking users already experience the difference. Lighter, faster, private systems that just work without the baggage. Choose wisely, act decisively today, and own your digital life, completely free from ecosystems that profit from your every interaction, and the power returns to you through informed choices. Act now, shape your tomorrow. Like the video, share it across your networks, and subscribe to stay ahead of every tech power shift.